I remember the moment like it was a knife pressed to my chest. The notary, the papers, my mother-in-law leaning in, all teeth and nails, saying, "It's just business, darling. Sign." And I signed. I smiled, nodded, everything rehearsed. Inside, I was already calculating how to make them regret it. We'd met 3 years ago. James, my husband, had that easy charm, the kind that makes you forget caution. I trusted him, loved him. My grandfather's company, the legacy of decades, was a silent promise in my life, one I hadn't flaunted. I wanted a life, not leverage. I had no idea that silence would save me. The first hint of betrayal came in whispers. James staying late at the office with clients, secretive phone calls, and unshakable tension in his tone when the company was mentioned. I brushed it off. Love blinds you to caution. But then, subtle things began to stack. Receipts for extravagant dinners with unknown women, my bank notifications showing curious withdrawals, the slight pause when I mentioned the company in casual conversation. The confirmation was a single, innocent-looking text from my mother-in-law. "We need to talk about the inheritance for James' future." It was like a punch in the gut. She wanted it all. The day after our wedding, they ambushed me. Papers, notary, charm dripping with threat. Sign it or else. But my silence had been deliberate. My calm was my shield. I left the house that day with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Inside, I was a storm of calculation. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I waited. Patience became my weapon. Step 1 was surveillance. I learned everything about their finances, their hidden accounts, their shell companies. Every legal loophole, every overreach, every misstep they'd ever made, I cataloged it. Step 2 was positioning. I hired a lawyer who specialized in corporate takeovers and inheritance law, the kind who could smell blood in a contract from miles away. Step 3 was subtle influence. I let James think he'd won, that I was weak, naive. I was invisible, a ghost moving through their greed. Months passed. I collected evidence, documented everything. I learned how much my mother-in-law had siphoned, how James had begun maneuvering for full control, all under the guise of family unity. Every move they made was predictable. Every arrogance they displayed fed the plan. And then the execution. It was legal, surgical. I called an emergency shareholders meeting, presenting documents James and his mother had never imagined anyone outside their circle would see. Hidden debts, fraudulent transfers, tax discrepancies. I revealed emails they'd assumed destroyed, contracts they'd assumed signed without scrutiny. James' face turned first pale, then red, then broken. His mother's poise shattered like glass. I watched them flail, desperately trying to rewrite reality, and I did nothing to help. Every argument they made, every plea, only highlighted their guilt. I leaned back in my chair, calm, measured. This is what justice looks like, I thought. By the end, the company was legally mine. Every asset returned, every fraudulent claim nullified. And James, stripped of power, humiliated in front of the board, forced to watch the empire he thought he'd inherited slip through his fingers. My mother-in-law tried to negotiate, tried to charm, but her eyes betrayed the truth. She had underestimated me. Later, alone in the office my grandfather had built with his own hands, I poured a glass of wine and let myself smile. Not a smile of triumph, exactly, but of release. The betrayal had stung, yes, but the revenge, precise and quiet, tasted like freedom. I thought of that day after the wedding, the notary, the threat, how close I'd been to losing everything, how easy it would have been to panic, to react. But restraint, patience, and precision had won. Silence had been my weapon, and it had cut deeper than anger ever could. In the end, they'd revealed who they truly were, and I had merely reflected it back at them, magnified, undeniable. Justice wasn't loud, it wasn't messy, it was calculated, like the most elegant of symphonies. And I had conducted every note. I raised my glass to the empty office. To loyalty betrayed, yes, but also to the calm, unstoppable force of a woman who refuses to be broken.